Hi and welcome to episode 9 of The Real Women of Boxing, where women with working knowledge and experience of the fight game bring you interviews, news and reviews. My name is Jacqui-Lee Pryce and my co-host today is the Super-Lightweight Unified Champion Kali Reis. How you doing, Kali? You all right?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I can't complain. I cannot complain. So, my darling, we're just going to keep it on straight reviews this episode. We're going to talk about the weekend's events. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was cool. Quite the eventful weekend, I will say.
It really was. Before we get onto the females, let's talk about Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez in the super featherweight, WBO, and Ring Magazine super lightweight titles.
I mean, Shakur is so on a level of his own. It's ridiculous. Like, I pray for an ounce of reaction time that kid has. He's amazing. His ring IQ, his reaction time, his punch selection, his feet, everything he was just frustrating to Valdez. And Valdez is good. He had one of the best knockouts. So that switch when he knocked out, I forgot his name at the moment, but when he had that last knockout. So I give a lot of props to Valdez, though. He tried to stay, game plan. He was trying different things. He just couldn't get close to him. Shakur is so precise. It's nice to watch.
It was a gorgeous masterclass, I think, because when they talk about levels, and let's be honest, Valdez is a quality operator, but when you talk about levels, that's what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, Valdez is good. He's great. But Shakur is he's in a league of his own, and he knows that. So I think it's even more frustrating when you're fighting somebody who's that good and they know they're that good, and they kind of give that, little showboating a little bit. But I can't even be mad at it because if I was that good, man,
it's true. What I did like, Stevenson, the distance, the way he controls his distance, he controls the pace of the fight, the timing of the counters. So not only is he trying to draw you on, he can go forward, he can, draw you into a battle. His counter, the timing of his counters is impeccable. And then I think, didn't he drop Valdez in the 6th round?
Yeah, he did.
With a little spin-off hook.
Yep. It was one of those, something that you don't see. And his distance is so, and I thought, and Lomachenko has great footwork, great distance. He has that weird inside, but outside, he keeps you where he wants you. But I was just watching Shakur's feet as soon as you take a little bit of step, he adjusts. So he keeps that same distance between himself and his opponent, no matter whether he's going left, right, side to side, forward and back. It's just really, really nice to watch. He's very aware of his distance to the point where he is the epitome of boxing is a game of millimeters and milliseconds, because even his way to get out of the way of punches just enough for him to counter, or just enough for him not to land, or even Valdez swung and missed and went into the ropes, make him miss and make him pay. So it's just, I enjoy watching him fight. It's really beautiful to watch.
It was really beautiful to watch. I mean, what I will say is, for those that don't, look at it as deeply as us, Valdez is a great boxer. But
just a great team.
But just on that night, there was a level of greatness that he couldn't even step up to. At one point, he tried everything. And then at one point, I think, after the round 6, he came back in round 7 and he tried to put it on Stevenson. But at one point, he's just literally marching forward.
Yeah. I mean, when you got to have plan A, B, C, D, E, and then F is F at fight. He was just trying to do everything. And I got to, again, give a lot of credit to Valdez because he did try everything. His team kept their composure. They were giving him different game plans. He kept his composure because if his corner would have lost it, he probably would have lost it. So he lost, but he just couldn't figure it out. You know what I mean? It was a great fight, even on his end. I admire his composure and the fact that he was trying to do everything. It just didn't work.
You know what else happened? I think right at the end of the fight, there was a little nod of acknowledgement, like at the end, it's kind of like, you kind of outfoxed me.
Yeah. Yep, you did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There was no, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was defeatist. It was just an acknowledgement of shit, you are as good as they say you are.
Yeah, no, and I could see him acknowledging that even through the rounds. Whenever he was banging his gloves, he was like, fuck, man, I just can't get him. Like, I know that frustration of when I'm sparring one of the lighter kids, or they're just so fast, you just can't get it. You're like a half a step or a whole step behind. And that seems like miles, like seems like yards, you know what I mean? That you can't get to these. But I was really happy to see both of them work, because it's really key for a person coming up, a fighter coming up, to see how Valdez kept his composure and how he did put the trust in his corner in himself to try to figure it out. That's really important. Even in defeat, like, you can learn a lot from Valdez's performance as well, just like you can Shakur. I mean, Shakur is just like untouchable, but I take a lot from Valdez. He's a great fighter, and I love his style. You know, again, his team, the way he switches. He couldn't even try to switch with Shakur, but it was a great fight to watch.
It was. Some people don't like the showboating. It got to the latter rounds, and Stevenson obviously has done a little bit of showboating. He's ran, he's sprinted.
Yeah, he did.
What are your thoughts on the showboating?
Man, listen, it's part of the game. I feel like people shouldn't have expectations of how a fighter, male or female, should act, to how they should be. If everybody was the same, it wouldn't be an entertainment. You know, this is an entertainment business. So he has the right to be that. I mean, some people don't like it, and it's people who look at it as deep as we do as an art. Man, that's him. And I respect that. I respect everybody's struggle, everybody's game plan, everybody's way they market themselves. It may not be the way I do it, but this is the way he do it. So I like it. I like that. So cool.
To be fair, I thought, you know what? At the end of the day, it is the entertainment business. If he was shit,
exactly,
then I might have a problem with the showboating. I think also it comes from a place of adrenaline. Mm-hmm. It comes from a place of joy. I don't think it comes from a place of disrespect.
I don't think it does either, because I mean, people who have been in this game, and I've been in this game for a while, even in sparring matches in gyms, you get the shit talking, you get the ooh, like it gets aggravated, but that's part of the game. Honestly, that mental part is part of the game. If you can get that mental down with that, or your skills, that's part of the skill. You have to have some mental game. If I'm hitting somebody, they ain't moving, and I'm tagging them, I'm going to be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's just part of the game, man.
Yeah. I like your attitude on it, because people get too hat up on like you said earlier. A point you made is like the way people choose to carry themselves. I may not, you might not think it's the right way, or we choose not to do it. But you know what? It's the game of entertainment. I think very much the game has changed, and it's less about the boxing. But if you have someone like Stevenson that can do the both, beautiful.
If it would be boring if all everybody did was, oh, I'm just happy to be here, a great fight, and you know, just kept it real clean. We like a hard ass. We love somebody that's gonna rattle some cages. Like, seriously, we look for fights on YouTube. Like, let me see, you know what I mean? Like, this is human nature. We need a little bit of variety. The more variety, the more spectators are gonna come. Then they don't even like boxing. Maybe they just like because they saw a press conference and he was talking, oh, now I'm going to watch that fight. You know what I mean? We need that. So don't stray from it. If anything, find your brand, find the way you can be different and rattle some cages. You know what I mean?
100%. Talking about showboating, Sky Nicholson versus Shaniqua Paisley Davis in a featherweight contest. I have to say, I do like Sky. I do like her. Your thoughts on that fight?
You know, I gotta give it to her, as far as, because she comes across as very, you know, quiet, respectful, very, you know, centered, grounded, very quiet spoken, but she's a totally different person in that ring, which I think that is needed. It's necessary. Just like Clarissa Shields says she has Clarenzo when she's in fight camp. You know what I mean? There's two, when that bell rings, you can even tell with Katie Taylor as far as her poise, and that bell rings is different. So I gotta say, I respect Sky for her knowing her tools and actually turning into a completely different person when the bell rings. So I do know that she's going to run into somebody that's going to remind her to keep her damn hands up. But I will say she's having some fun right now. I would say it's going to take a little while for her to get out of that amateur, which we saw a little bit of at this fight. So you can see she's keeping busy in the pro ranks, which is going to be necessary for her to stay as busy as she has, just so she can transition into pro style a little bit better. Hands down, showboating. If it works for her, it works. She's getting getting the wins, looking good doing it. I know the punch output, a lot of people say it should be more, but it's working for her right now. But again, she's going to run into somebody that's going to remind her to keep her hands up, and then she's going to have to switch. But let her have her fun right now. I mean, she got the win and she got her first knockdown. So,
you know what I like about her? You can see in her eyes that, I mean, I agree, she's the loveliest kid outside of the ring, but she's a little spiteful so-and-so when she's in the ring.
Yeah.
You can see her mind ticking over. But what I will... Yeah, she's absolutely switched on. But what I will say is she's not been boxing in the professional ranks very long. It takes time to transition over. I also think we're seeing the development in the increments that we're supposed to be seeing them. Mm-hmm. She was sitting down on her shots a lot more. Mm-hmm. And we saw that. We saw that when she got the knockdown. I'm not bothered about the punch output. I'm going to be honest. Mm-hmm. Because for me, I would rather you threw less
and landed more.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's going to really, as far as being precise, like you have to be as an amateur, that will play really well in the pro ranks. I got to say, I'm not comparing it to Michaela Mayer. However, two totally different fighters, but the development, like you just said, this little tweaks that she's making from the amateurs to the pros, she's doing her thing. I do know that even though she does have a lot of amateur fights, there wasn't that much competition from where she was fighting. So maybe she didn't see as much diversity in styles from different countries around the world. However, I'm like what I see, and I do like the spitefulness. I love a spiteful fighter. I really do. I love it.
As long as she's not spiteful outside of the ring, I don't care. It's just, some people are saying that it's too early for her to be showboating, that she should kind of, I don't know, play the good girl. But I feel like when she's in there and it's flowing and she's just enjoying herself.
That's perfect. Again, technically, I will say, and I'm not saying this to be an asshole, but you're going to run into somebody to remind you, okay, we're in a fight. Got to keep my hands up, maybe to switch. But she's in that flow state. That's how she gets in that flow state. Just like Shakur Stevenson, he gets in his flow state. He does a little different. Every time he hits somebody, he's doing a little showboat. And if that works for you, it works for you. I know that, like I said, the fights are just going to get harder and harder. She got to reach she got knuckle dragger's arms. So I will say she's learning to keep people from the outside and bringing that into the pro ranks from the amateurs is going to be good as well. And she was sitting down. So those nice little tweaks that she's making, I'm excited to see how far she goes and see her transition into the pros.
Her opponent was only 3-1, so it was quite a nice little balance. Mm-hmm. I quite like Shanika. I thought that she was really, she just came up against somebody that was that level above. But I did like what I saw from her, and actually she'd be a good little boxer. I think she had a similar situation where she was trying things. It wasn't even for lack of trying. Mm-hmm. It's just that it couldn't come off. And again, those spin-offs.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to say, it's just like how we just said Valdez, just not that Shanika wasn't doing what she could do and trying different things, that she couldn't really get in. Somebody that's that long, has that much amateur background, but it was a good effort on her part. So I give her a lot of respect. And she looks like she's a pretty decent boxer. So I think that was the perfect opponent for Sky. And she just keeps, keep moving up from here.
So let's talk about the second female bout on that card, Franchon Dezern-Cruz versus Ellen Cederroos in the undisputed super middleweight title fight. So
that was quite the fight. I will say, like I have been saying, that's the best I've ever seen Franchon look. And Ellen Cederroos just, again, didn't have an answer. You know what I mean? She was trying. But I think maybe she got a little rattled, and her corners didn't seem like they had their shit together either. Again, I'll go back to the corner. I always say that you got to have a good corner, especially when you're tripping out. you got to have somebody's going to keep you grounded and give you guidance. That's why we have them. It just didn't seem like the corner knew what the fuck they were doing, to be honest.
I'm going to say, before we get onto the kind of technical side of that fight, hello, I just think it was so apparent from, we could be wrong, but if you cannot clean that blood off my girl's face and her arms, have you ever cornered before?
Well, I think her corner seems to be just as new to this game, or even newer than she is. She's only been a pro for 7 years, but it didn't seem like her corner seemed like they were just happy to be there. Didn't really seem like they were there to do a job. That was almost embarrassing. Like I felt bad. I'm like, I really felt bad. Even just, I'm not a cut woman yet, but I know how kind of things should go. I don't know. It was I felt bad. That's a huge distraction.
It was a huge distraction, not only for us, but for her. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, for me, if you don't know what you're doing, there are two options. Either learn or go and find someone that can do it. Exactly.
But I will say it was a crazy fight, though. It definitely was. It was a crazy fight. That Elin is really, really big. I remember I was there when she fought Alicia, and I looked up and I'm like, you are big.
How tall is she?
She's almost 6 feet. I think she about where you at. She's tall. She's tall as hell. But I didn't realize she was so big. I was like, damn, I'm glad I ain't no middleweight or middleweight. Y'all are big as hell, for real.
To be fair, actually, it's changed a lot over the years. So middleweights and super middleweights, when I was boxing, were always kind of my height, 5'10", whatever. Nowadays, if you look at Lauren Price, I'm like, where are you going with your middleweight self?
I mean, I was a middleweight champ, and I was 5'7". Here I am knocking Christina Hammond's ass out. So, I mean, it is what it is. But it was a good fight. Skill wise, as far as like cleanliness of the combinations and everything, Franchon has her own style and it works for her. And I got to say, whatever she did different in this camp worked for her, because that is the best I've ever seen her. I mean, I'm so happy for her, because she's had a tough run at it, and she's definitely an inspiration. You could see she was completely switched on. She even said it herself, she wasn't really listening to her corner too much, but I know that as a fighter, if you see something keep landing, you just want to keep throwing it. So she did, her corner. I love Barry. I've met him before. I've known him for years. I just love that entire corner and that whole team. So kudos to her. And kudos to Elin for getting through the way she did and keep trying. She's very basic, which worked for her very long, but Franchon figured a way to kind of get inside, which is what you got to do with somebody who's basic and tall and long like that, is kind of come stab that body and come overhand right. And it was there all night,
So talking about basic, some people were saying on social media that it didn't look like a world title fight. And you talk about Ellen's, I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but I understand it as a kind of lack of basic. Okay, let's just use the word basic, technical skills. However, even the jab, for me, as someone that's taller, that jab should have been finding its way home. I feel like the whole event it felt like it overwhelmed her. That's how it felt to me.
Yeah, no, I agree, because even I know she was, having fun coming out, but it seemed like it was a little overwhelming. Like I said, Franchon didn't bat an eyelash. That's where she belongs. That's what she loves it. She gets the entertainment part of it. And I'm not by any means saying Franchon ain't skilled, because she is skilled. She was on the team, Olympic team. She's fought Clarissa a number of times. I'm just saying she looked phenomenal for, for that. And she got the job done. I was really happy to see her put some things together. Her hands look fast. I was like, okay, Franchon, okay.
She looked strong. It felt to me, and I don't know if I have not been in a camp before. I haven't spoken to her that deeply about what goes on in her camp. But I felt like she'd done some more strength and conditioning, or she's with a new strength and conditioning coach, because that girl looked strong. Yeah. And when that backhand, as it was coming over, okay, it's not technically, 100%, but it was landing.
No, that's that overhand right that put your whole body into overhand right. That's the technical, I'm trying to take you out right hand. And it was landing so beautifully. I seen her, even when she was throwing it, she'd adjust her hand at the last last minute to get right on the chin. I was like, yo, keep throwing that. Stab the body, come up, come over. She was putting her combinations together. Like you said, she looked strong. And I know that girl's powerful. Whatever she was doing before, she just added something to make her even more powerful. I don't want no smoke with it. I'm going to stay my little ass right at 140.
I'm starting training soon.
Okay, all right.
But here's the joke, right? What I thought was interesting is Franchon, and this isn't a criticism, she was throwing a lot of the same combinations, and yet Ellen's corner did not, do anything technically to adjust.
No, like you said, something really basic, because she has good fundamental basics, would be a jab, a double jab, straight right. That long, I would have been like, yo, don't just stay on your toes.
Stay at distance.
Stay distant and use your angles and use that jab. Jab your arm off, honestly. Just find a home for that jab, because, if you touch it with the jab, you can start double, tripling up, and you can throw that straight right hand. For Elin, the overhand right was not going to work for her. The overhand right worked for Franchon, but because she has good fundamentals, basic, and I did hear somebody mention she has the best footwork in women's boxing. I don't know about all that, but okay. She just couldn't figure it out, where I wish her corner would have just like, hey, forget what you're trying to do. Just use your feet and use your jab. Just find it with your jab.
The 3 shots you've just mentioned, just do that. If that's all you've got. Because actually it's not all she's got, because at the end of the last round, she started pulling out hooks. I'm like, where was all that?
Yeah, when she fought Alicia, I'm like, she got more than just a 1-2. Alicia's a lot smaller than Franchon as far as like height and everything, but she gave her a hell of a fight. But I saw her pull out a lot more tools against Alicia than she did with Franchon. When I'm like, you need your whole tool bag with Franchon, because she is a force to be reckoned with, and she kind of fell apart. And Alicia gave Alin hell too. That was a great fight. So it was a good fight for Franchon. She stepped up a million levels. Her hair was intact and everything. She good.
Do you know what? As well, I like the way she's embracing that.
Yeah.
It's happened. Now there's two options. I can either, cry about it or embrace it and sell t-shirts.
Fuck the hair, want the belts. Exactly. I was like, yep, you got to use what you got, man.
Yeah.
Smart woman.
Are we saying that effectively, not taking anything away from Franchon, but are we saying that there was a lack of not only control in the corner, in Ellen's corner? Are we saying that they were just not experienced enough to have been in that corner?
I think that was one thing, but I guarantee, even if they were prepared, because they had 2 years to prepare for this, that Franchon's corner is so intact and so well diverse and have so much knowledge that if she had an answer for what they were doing, Franchon's corner and Franchon, having the boxing IQ that she does, would have figured it out. So I don't think there's anything that they could have done unless they had a whole 10, 15 years in the pro games to prepare for this to even win, because that's what makes a good fighter. Though Franchon may not be the most aesthetically pleasing to the eye, like crisp, but it works for her and she's mastered that. It's like, you can't train this people the same way. So you take what she has, and she has strength, she has dog and everything, and she has good fundamentals. You put all that, you just work from there, not try to make her a boxer, because she's not going to want to box. She's going to want to brawl. She's a strong broad. So let her brawl, but, tweak some things. And that's smart on their end. So I don't think Elin's crew corner or her IQ for boxing would have made a difference, honestly.
Franchon was talking about she wants to have another crack at Clarissa. However, I would really like to see Savannah Marshall and Franchon.
Yeah, I would like to see that fight. I'd like to see Maricela against Eileen Sedarus. I'd like to see that, because she should step it up a little bit. I know she's keeping busy. She's tried to get a world title a number of times. But I would love to, Franchon already beat her twice. So that's not worth it. But I like to see, if Alicia Napoleon comes back, I'd like to see her and Maricela fight. I would love to see that fight. So there's a lot of between super middle and middleweight, there's a lot of little mix-ups, but I would like to see.
Juicy.
It's getting very from like 118 to 168. It's getting juicy, man. This is really good.
So if you want to support the channel, please consider buying a bit of merchandise. I'll drop the link below. So for those that are tuning in, Kaylee has regularly sparred Miss Katie Taylor, who, of course, on Saturday night fought the amazing Amanda Serrano for the undisputed lightweight title at Madison Square Gardens as the headliners. Oh my gosh.
History right there. I was so proud of being a female fighter and watching this on my TV, like, and hearing the crowd. Like, I could only imagine how it was there, but like to really see this happening. And I've been off social media for about a month and a half now, so I didn't even know any kind of hype. I didn't want to. And it's almost like knowing nothing about a movie, even though I know both of these fighters very well, and then just going to see it. And just, I wanted to know what was going to happen. And holy shit, they did not disappoint.
It did not. It was worth all the hype. I mean, but are you surprised outside of boxing circles that there was so much interest around this event?
Yes, I'm pleasantly surprised because, again, you have Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, who are absolute, like, the humblest, most really respectful, love the craft, sweet, soft-spoken, but that bell rings and they are all about the craft. And I love, don't even know them like that, but I love them so much for putting so much respect and grind into this craft, because it just shows. And I was so amazed and happy to see, number one, the crowd. I saw people in the crowd that probably would never go to a boxing match just because they're Irish and they love Katie and what she does, or they now are boxing fans because whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you have Puerto Rico, you have Ireland, who in Madison Square Garden, people went to see a headline female undisputed fight in Madison Square Garden for $1 million paydays. Like, and the fight just toppled over. So now the people who weren't maybe regular fans are going to be regular fans of fights like that.
What I will say is about, and I'm sure it's the same about Puerto Rican followers of boxing, but I know for a fact, because I have been to a fight where Katie Taylor fought when she fought Natasha Jonas, and the Irish fans really come out in force and they support their people. And when I say they raise the roof,
they literally raise that fucking
literally.
Like, for real.
You know, and so firstly, what I will say, I found it a bit odd, but each to their own. You know, there was a lot of female wrestlers there with their belts and stuff like that, which I thought personally it was a bit bizarre. I would understand MMA fighters maybe, but I didn't understand the sort of female wrestlers being there.
You don't like female wrestling? I love wrestling. I'm just saying, because I've
seen it. You're terrible at it, though.
I know I'm shit at it, but I absolutely love wrestling. So I didn't even know.
There was a lot of. Again, I guess it was one of those things that they needed, as in the organisers needed to make this a massive spectacle. But for me, as a boxing purist, I felt a little bit like the people that should have got that platform should have been boxers. I don't know if you should have shipped them in from different countries or whatever, you know, the top 10 or whatever. It felt a little bit to me like they were taking a little shine off the boxers. I would have liked to have seen yourself there. I would have liked to have seen Mary there. People that have had, you still have obviously titles, but have had titles. That's just my personal, because you guys have really had to hustle. I would have liked to have seen, probably difficult because she's training for a fight, but Chantel Cameron there, you know, people like that, and giving their opinion on, even in the just in the crowd.
I would, that would have been really dope, actually. Not even myself included, yeah, but not just because of me. But they probably went that route because it's, a proud moment for women athletes all across, and there is a huge audience for women wrestlers, especially just having WrestleMania, Bianca Belair winning, like her and Sasha Banks. I know you don't know these names, but they were the first women of color to actually compete for, I think it was either WrestleMania or something, don't quote me, but they made history as well. So, you know, female wrestling, especially when it comes to people of color, women of color, has really like skyrocketed now. So I'm sure they probably were trying to, you know, make it a big event as far as women wise, but it would have been dope to have like a full female boxing, like in the front row doing that. But I was so glad to see Clarissa there. I was happy to see that Jessica McCaskill was commentating. I'll get to that, what I didn't like about it, but I was glad to see that they did actually do that. Especially with the relevance of Clarissa maybe possibly fighting Fran China again in the future. Jessica McCaskill has been chasing Katie Taylor like a dog chasing his tail. Again, we'll get to that later. But
everybody's chasing her, bless her.
Oh God, go ahead, good luck, but whatever. But yeah, it would have been nice. And you know, surprisingly and unfortunately, I've never been or fought in Madison Square Garden. I've never been there. Nor have I ever fought there. Not yet.
So the first thing I will say is, again, it was great to see Carissa there, even though she's nothing to do with Matchroom or, you know, DAZN. I thought that was great. I thought it was a nice hat tip to her. I don't know that much about wrestling, and so now you've kind of explained it in that way. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that now it was more of a female-led thing. There were some faces at ringside which I thought, oh my gosh, Miss Ali. Now that
I've done fell off my goddamn chair at home. I'm like, wait the fuck, hold the fuck up.
Okay. Yes.
You
look gorgeous.
I would expect Cecilia Braggins. I would expect Christy Martin, but Layla, and I have said this in the past, that I grew up as a Layla Ali fan, especially because, you know, I kind of looked like braids when I was little, but I lost respect for her when all this time since she's been away from boxing, she hasn't done anything to support women's boxing. With the name and the career she had alone, I'm sure maybe we could have been at this point with some help a little sooner, maybe with the influence she has. Neither here nor there, but I lost respect for her. But when I seen her give the message, I was like, okay, Layla, we needed more of that from you from like the last 10
years ago.
Exactly. But okay, better late than never. That was awesome. I know Rosie Perez is an avid female boxer fan.
Yes.
Or just a boxing fan anyway. So it was amazing to see that.
Like I say, it would have been great to have seen a few more faces. It was probably logistically, it was probably quite difficult.
Oh, I could imagine. I mean, you know, we're all in training or have fights or have other obligations. But I'm sure maybe going forward, because the bar was set so high with this, just opened a lot more doors. And just like you see, you know, high profile male fighters at high profile fights, whether it's by their own team or by the team of the people putting out the fights, I'm sure. Because I wanted to go, and I was actually in New York last week working, but I wanted to enjoy the fight. I really wanted to watch the fight, and unless I was ringside with not all that, I wanted to be home watching it on the TV, because that's where you get the better view anyway. However, I would have loved to be there just to be like I was there when that happened in history, but it was insane. I couldn't even imagine. Like, you couldn't hear the bell, like you couldn't hear the corner, like it was insane.
One of the things that I will say is, you know, going into the fight, Katie Taylor was actually the underdog, which I was surprised.
I mean, that's she needed that though. I mean, I think she needed that, because as somebody I'm not no Katie Taylor, but I'm my elite level and in my own right a champion for a very, very long time. But sometimes people can get complacent, and no matter what you do, and being on top, and sometimes you lose that hunger. And there's a quote that says the worst thing you can ever do as an athlete or as a person is get civilized. Sometimes people get too civilized and lose that hunger. Not saying that she did, but I think it was just the extra oomph she needed for that, especially a high caliber fight. I think being the underdog is easier to fight that big. It's insane.
It's true. I think when you're at that level, everybody's snapping at your heels, but also that means that you need a little, like you just said, a little impetus. And you're right. I think that, I mean, she always comes in excellent shape. Her body looked amazing. But she just strikes me as a person that, like, 24/7, it's about the boxing, you know, and if she's not boxing, she's, you know, studying boxing. That's how she strikes me. But, you know, I thought it was a an excellent fight. I think in particular, Serrano surprised me because I know that when Katie gets to the latter part of the rounds, well, firstly, she's better against boxers rather than brawlers. I think her toughest fight to date was Pursoon, the 2 fights that she's had. I'm talking about Katie now. But with Serrano, she can box. And so I thought it would be slightly easier for Taylor to kind of work her out. Well, no. I mean, hey, a girl could be wrong.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's Serrano's like, she packs cannons, yo. It's insane how hard that girl hits. I could just see it. Never sparred her or anything, but you could just see it. And she lives, eats, sleeps, shits, breathes boxing. That's all she does. That's all the girl does, and it has done since she started, you know?
What I think that Katie does have over Serrano is the footwork and the speed of how she is able to get out of distance. I think that Serrano sometimes is a little bit in gear 1, maybe 2. We did see in those championship rounds her, really pull it out. And not that I was surprised, but it was just another level that I was seeing of Serrano.
Yeah, I mean, that I can speak from experience. When you fight somebody that good, you get some shit that you pull out. You knew maybe that you could possibly do, but you pull shit out of your hat that you're like, damn, I could really do that. You know what I mean? That's what I noticed when I fought Breakfast. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be here, but it comes from fighting such good fighters. Like, some fighters will take,
100%.
Pedestrian ducks any day because they just want the win. No, I want to learn, put my back against the wall. Let me have to dig down deep and figure this shit out. Not that I ever have to ask for that in my life, but I feel like it brings another level to you, kind of evolution to your personal and physical growth. So I saw a lot of things from both of them. I knew Katie could dig down. I knew, Amanda would dig down, and they both will die on their shields. You know what I mean? And I can see that, and I recognize that in them because I'm the same way. So like I said, I had predictions and it kind of went how I thought. But there's so many variables that could have happened with that. You know what I mean? So I wasn't mad at the score. I kept score. I had the same thing. I wasn't, it's going to go either way.
But when people were talking about before we get onto the scorecard, the one thing I will say about Amanda, she had, I think it's 42 fights and 3 losses or something like that, 45 fights. But the opponents that she has fought have not been of the same caliber as Katie Taylor. And so that was the thing for me that was edging Katie above her. Absolutely. And also she hasn't been put into those situations, I don't think, to pull those that extra out. She's finished them within next
seconds. Yeah, next. That's a good point. And I've always said that, like, I love that she has 7 division world champion and she has 30 knockouts. Her record is retarded. Like, I'm jealous of her damn record. Her knockout ratio is more fights than I ever had. But again, like you said, the opposition hasn't been quite the same. Although Katie has half the fights as Amanda has, as you said. But Amanda's from the era like I am, where she's been around for a while. So it really was.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? Katie turned pro in 2015, 16. And that's when, the competition and the pools got deeper. So, but taking nothing away from either one of them, they both showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of grit, everything, man.
Let's talk about grit and heart. First of all, we'll talk about the round 5, and then we'll talk about the last round, because those to me were the most sort of defining moments. What I will say though is what I did like about Katie, and for me, I was like, why are you standing toe to toe?
No.
With a puncher. So let's talk about round 5. Why are you standing toe to toe with a puncher?
I don't know. Pride, maybe. I can say that sometimes you get caught up as a fighter. Again, you don't want to listen to your corner. You might want to just do it. Sometimes it's pride. The crowd was insane, so I can't even fucking imagine what she was going through her mind. That was a mistake. That was definitely a mistake that Amanda capitalized on.
What I will say is I liked it because I was like,
Yes.
oh,
Okay,
is that what we're doing now, Katie?
Yeah, but she and I knew she had that. She has a dog in her too, so it was like, yo, she gotta show that too. You know what I mean? Get that respect. It's almost again a mental thing, and you almost cost the damn fight for that. However, to have to really think, to listen, to calm down, and keep your composure, to be almost dropped and like knocked out, and to continue that, have to dig down, relax, not get nervous. Like again, it has to do a lot with corners as well, because the corner could have got freaked out. Like, oh my God, oh, you got a box. And they're like, okay, yeah, don't do that. But let's try to go back to boxing.
Let's not do that again. And let's keep it long and keep moving like you would do. Because to be perfectly honest, in those rounds when she keeps it long and she's on her bike, it was very, very hard for Serrano to pin her down. It really was.
Her footwork in her in and out game is so superb, and that's one thing with sparring her that gets my eyes shot, because she's so fast. She's in and out, and she's side to side. It's like you can't find her. Once you do, she'll switch it up on you. Like she might want to brawl, she might want to fight inside. So it was kudos to both Serrano and Katie, for Serrano for capitalizing on it and having the IQ and having the, all right, need to jump on her now, and know where she was strong and really say, all right, now I got her, I'm going to bang on her and not quit. You know what I mean? So it was just, there was a lot in that fight.
It was a gorgeous moment, to be fair, in terms of technically and stuff. When I interviewed Serrano, she stated to me that she'd never thought that the fight would even happen without Jake Paul. And there's a part of me that thinks, you have brought your side to the table, the talent, the grit, the determination. But obviously, do you think that it wouldn't have happened without Jake Paul? Because Serrano is saying that she doesn't think it would have happened.
It's a fight that, and I have, exclusive insights on a lot of things of boxing, but it was one of those things that it should have happened years ago. It really should have. But there's a lot of moving parts to boxing. It's not just the fighters, not just the managers, promoters. So I think Jake Paul had the belief and the, I guess, time and money on his hands to make it happen the way it should have happened. So I think he was definitely an asset to making this happen the right way in a timely fashion. Would it have happened without him? Possibly, maybe, yes, but maybe in a whole nother friggin' year, and it maybe took long. It might not have been a higher caliber as that, but he has the freedom financially and just time-wise to put all his time, effort, and money into somebody who deserves that. And Amanda is by far one of the ones that definitely deserve that. She put in the time, she put in the work, and she it's not just, she doesn't just have belts and championships, she didn't get given to them. She worked hard for them. They moved her how they needed to move her. And a lot of people say, her opposition was crap, even from 118 all the way to 140, but that was a move. This is not chess or checkers, it's Monopoly. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to move the way you need to move.
I think it's good that she's given him props, that he's come on board and he's, assisted with making this fight happen. Mm-hmm. But I think, and there are many fighters that don't give, trainers or managers, etc., props for doing what they do. But for me, especially as a female, it feels like you're giving away the responsibility of, all that graft and all that hard work over the years, and you're handing that over solely to a man and saying, look, this man did this for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And that's a good angle to kind of come at it. Cause it's like, the way it happened, how it did financially and everything, I'm happy for it, but she did the work. You know what I mean? She did the work, and her team, coach and everything else, they did the work. And there was other people on her team that aren't anymore that also did the work, that put a lot of time and effort into her as well. Do I think she needs to put all her praise to Jake Paul? I mean, I don't know their dynamic. I don't know the full story, so I have no place to say that. But has she seen the difference working with him versus trying to get the fight years ago? Possibly, and that's why she feels so grateful, because it finally happened the way she wanted it to happen. So that's kind of her own prerogative, and I don't feel comfortable or feel like it's my place to even give that. But I was always giving props to Jake Paul and Logan Paul because no matter how ridiculous their fights may have seemed to the outside eye, they were still putting real fights on. They'll still putting real fighters fight on the card, even though it was on a weird day. They put Ocho Cinco, him, but they had other real fights, and he was given chance to Amanda Serrano to fight for a female fight. He was giving chances to other real fighters. So, and he puts in the work as far as training. That boy trains. Trains.
Well, you should. To be fair, you should. If you're gonna, I mean, that's a given, really and truly. But people were booing him as soon as he started speaking. So I guess the question would be: will boxing or boxing people ever accept Jake Paul, regardless of this fight, regardless of the eyes on the sport? Will boxing ever accept him?
Well, Eddie Hearn gets booed every time he steps up in the UK, and from north to south UK, he gets booed all the time. So it was funny because I'm like, Eddie's usually the one getting booed. Now Jake Paul's getting booed. I don't know. I feel like, he's still wet behind the ears. He has a lot to learn about the business and the just being a fighter. But everybody got to start somewhere. So I don't know. I give him his respect. I'm not like, oh my God, Jake Paul's the best, but he's doing what he has to do. He's not, I don't think he's overstepping boundaries yet. When he starts calling himself pound for pound a champ, then I think you need to relax. But at the end of the day,
he does think. I think there was a debate between a sit down between him and Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn called him. What did he call him? Basically average.
Yeah.
And he's saying I'm not an average fighter, and it's like no, that's a compliment. There are average fighters on my card, on my rostrum, and you are average. And he truly doesn't think he's average. So,
okay, I regress. Again, I haven't been following all the stuff on it.
Hey, you know what? The argument could be if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to.
Exactly. So, I mean, he's in his own lane. And I always call it the and one of boxing. Like, and one was basketball, but it was its own entity. So allow it to be what it is. Is he a businessman? I don't know how good of a businessman he is, but he seems like he's doing pretty fucking okay to me. You know what I mean? He's in the business. He's YouTubed his whole empire. So, more power to you, Jake Paul. Do you think, homie?
Coming up this weekend, we've got Christina Hammer and Sophie Eilish out on Saturday in Cologne. That's on Saturday, May the 7th. Listen, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Miss Kali Reis. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, it definitely is a pleasure. Hopefully next time we speak, we'll be talking about my potential date for this fight once I get things all in line. Still praying to the boxing and health gods that I'm okay. So
I haven't asked you, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm taking it one day at a time. I think I just actually spoke to one of my doctors today, and we're kind of coming to a lot of answers. All my procedures, I think I don't have anything else I have to do, please. But I think we're kind of narrowing it down to what we have to do going forward. And I just want my body to be able to function the way it needs to. So I can get back to feeling like me, because I haven't for well over a year now. But I'm thankful that I have the time to. But I'm okay just taking it one day at a time. It's a little frustrating not being able to get into a routine yet. But I'm maintaining and do what I have to do. And whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. That fight is going to happen. There's nothing that, except for the doctor's okay, that's telling me I'm not taking the fight, because that's what I signed up for. I can't wait till that fight, but I got to listen to my body and listen to my doctors. So, but hopefully really, really soon, like within the next month, I'll have a definite, yes, I can finally just do what I have to do. But
so I wish you a speedy recovery, but I tell you what would be nice now. So apparently is going to be a rematch between Katie Taylor and Serrano. You, Chantel Cameron on the undercard.
That would be awesome.
Actually, should I say co-main event?
That would be awesome. I mean, I love to fight and go to Ireland, so let's go. That's neutral ground, because here is my home country. UK is her home country, although, again, I want to fight there because I love y'all. But Ireland is, neutral. So I'm down. We'll see how the chips fall.
Let me see if I can make it happen.
Hey, man. Use the gift of gab.
So listen, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. But yeah, keep me posted and see you soon.
All right, definitely. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for hitting me up to talk a little bit about boxing. I know I've been out of the whole public eye for a little bit, but trust me, it's for a good reason. So I appreciate it. You reaching out. It was a pleasure.